How's it going, everyone? It's all Weather Sponge 5000. Today is October 23rd, 2021, and today we're going to focus on the major bomb cyclone that's going to impact a lot of the western half of the United States with extremely heavy rain, flash flooding, as well as extremely heavy snowfall in the higher elevations and strong winds, which could gust in some areas up to 100 miles per hour. And we also are going to take a look at the next severe weather threat that's going to impact a lot of these Midwest states into later this week. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by taking a look at the current water vapor imagery, and you see that it's currently dry for a lot of the eastern half of the United States. At this point, we do have a little bit of a cold front moving through. That's bringing more stable and dry air to the eastern half of the United States, so nothing to worry about for now along the eastern half of the United States. However, it becomes a stark contrast when you take a look towards the western half of the United States, where we do see a lot more moisture. We do see some troughs moving through, such as this one, which is currently located right around between Kansas and Missouri at this time, and we're seeing thunderstorm activity as a result of just a little bit of instability that's creating some convection and thunderstorm activity right around Missouri. And we also have this other trough, which is expected to pretty much fuel our next major severe weather threat in the Midwest, as there's going to be just enough cold air behind it and just enough strong northwesterly winds to force a lot of instability in the area, and that will create just very strong wind shear in the upper levels of the atmosphere, where we're going to see a stark contrast when it comes to wind speed and wind direction with height, which will help induce severe weather, and will also have just a ton of convection occurring in the Midwest. But the primary focus of this video will be this bomb cyclone that's expected to bring extremely heavy rainfall, extremely dangerous flash flooding throughout California and other states along the west coast, and we're also expected to see extremely strong winds and heavy snowfall in the higher elevations of California as well as Nevada. So this is something you guys need to pay close attention to along the west coast. Now, taking a look at the current radar right now, you see that not much is going on. We do have several rain showers occurring throughout the extreme west coast of the Pacific Northwest, where we're seeing some rain right around Portland, just west of Seattle, as well as some rain in Northern California. However, this isn't the bomb cyclone that's expected to bring the extreme flash flooding and heavy rain throughout the west coast of the United States, as this is just a small trough that's moving ahead of this bomb cyclone, which is currently still well into the Pacific at this time, but it's moving eastward quite quickly, as it's going to rapidly intensify as this moves eastward, as it's going to encounter just enough instability in the atmosphere, and we're going to see a Pacific jet stream that's going to move down far south enough to where it's going to interact with that warmer air that's located towards the southwestern portion of the United States, and that'll create a very unstable environment and a category 4 to category 5 type Pacific jet stream plume, where we're going to see just a plume of moisture move along the west coast of the United States, and that'll create a very heavy rain threat ahead. But the good news is that it might help limit the drought a little bit, which as I was stating in my previous videos, the drought in along the west coast of the United States is very bad right now, so it might mitigate the impacts that the drought will bring thanks to the heavy rain we're obviously expected to receive. But we're gonna receive too much rain too fast, and during times of drought, it typically doesn't take as much rain for flash flooding to occur. So it's very well possible we could see an even worse flash flooding threat as a result of this drought, because like I said, it doesn't take a lot of rain during droughts for flash flooding to occur, as you only need a moderate amount of rainfall throughout California and our surrounding states to receive a flash flood type event. So you guys need to take extra precaution along the west coast, especially if you live near a creek or a river that's bound to flash flood during events like this, and it could be even more enhancing to the drought. So make sure to pay close attention to this throughout the west coast of California. But you see a couple of rain showers, nothing much throughout California at this time. If we were to take a look at the future, you see that the trough should continue to move further eastward, and we're going to see that rain move further eastward as well, closer to eastern California, as well as Portland should get more involved in the rain. However, the bomb cyclone will stay well off to the west for today, but it should move eastward into tomorrow and Monday, and that's when you guys should experience the worst of the flash flooding. Now, take a look at what the GFS model is saying when it comes to precipitation. The precipitation rate throughout the west coast of the United States is pretty much its futurecast radar. You see that there's that initial trough. It's expected to weaken as it moves westward, which will certainly limit the rainfall for today. But tomorrow is when the real bomb cyclone comes in. You see that by just only around 42 hours from now, we're seeing heavy rain and flash flood type rain occur throughout Northern California, and this is extending to Nevada as well. And throughout Oregon and Washington, we're also seeing rain impact you guys. And if we were to take a look at these contour lines, they represent how close or how tightly packed the pressure is, and the pressure gradient between this low pressure and this ridge. And you see that they're very tightly packed, and what that typically means is that the winds will be relatively strong. The storm is strong, so along the west coast you could experience very high surf and rip current risk. So of course, do not go in the water. I wouldn't expect you guys to go in the water anyway, because I know the water is pretty cold up in the Pacific Northwest, but stay away from the coast because the wave heights should be high, the winds should be strong, and that could definitely raise the rip current risk. So stay away from the coast for the most part. And you see that the rain will extend further southward into California. San Francisco will get involved in heavy rain that could cause flash flooding right around the 54-hour mark. This is Monday, very early on Monday, and you see that we're going to see some snow in the higher elevations of California, as you see some purples. And you see, if we were to continue to move forward, this rain will even move further southward into Southern California, which typically doesn't receive the heaviest rain pretty much all year round, but it's going to receive some rain from this. So Los Angeles and San Diego might get involved in some rain, as well as Las Vegas should get involved in some rain. And then this trough will eventually cut off from the low pressure that's bringing this moisture plume, and pretty much become sort of an upper level low that's going to be cut off from the jet stream, and it's going to move further eastward, and this could create our next severe weather threat in the Midwest later next week towards Wednesday. But for now, this should bring heavy rain and flash flooding throughout California. So in terms of the certainty of this, there is very high certainty with this at this point. The GFS model is pretty much nearly identical with what the European model is saying, and we're going to expect to see just very heavy rain out of this. The only way we could see maybe a little bit less rain is if maybe the low pressure moves a little bit less southward, which would mean that the cold air will move less southward, and we'll see less unstable air as a result. But at this point, it seems like this low pressure system will move just far south enough to create an unstable environment and to bring a lot of that heavy rain towards California and a lot of the west coast, as well as just very heavy snowfall. So flash flooding could be a big risk out of this. Now, in terms of the forecasted wind right around the lower levels of the atmosphere, if we were to take a look at that, you see that there's a wind and temperature. You see that the winds certainly increase as the low pressure comes closer, and I'd say it will be strongest right around the Pacific Northwest coast, where the low pressure will be the closest, and as a result, we're going to see the pressure gradient more tightly packed towards the northwestern portion of the United States. So I'd say the winds will be strongest in that region, but the winds will extend far south, and the peaks of the higher elevations of California and Nevada could experience wind gusts up to 100 miles per hour, which is just insane, as high wind warnings are in effect throughout Nevada, California, as well as, and this extends even to Oregon as well. So you guys need to pay close attention to the strong winds as well, because they could impact you guys, especially in the higher elevations closer to the Pacific Northwest. So make sure to keep that in mind. Taking a look at the temperature anomaly right around the mid levels of the atmosphere. I want to show you this because it really gives a good idea of how much instability there is, because you see that there's quite a divide when it comes to temperature anomaly right around, just off the coast of the Pacific, where temperatures are a little bit more easier to identify, because of course there's a lot of the higher elevations of California that kind of make it difficult to see where exactly that cold front is located and how much the cold front is bringing behind it. But you see that this with this extratropical cyclone, there's a stark contrast when it comes to temperature anomaly, and that will create just a very unstable environment throughout California. And it seems likely you guys will experience just a very heavy rain threat. Now, in terms of the actual amount of precipitation you should expect from this storm over the next 5 days, based on what the European model is saying, you see over the next 5 days, we're going to see a large area of California experience anywhere from 5 to 8 inches of rain. This includes San Francisco, the Bay Area, as well as the Lake Tahoe area, and throughout Sacramento could experience just very heavy rain, and in excess of 5 to 8 inches. And some of this rain could fall at a very fast pace, and it's over a drought-stricken region, so we could see even more flash flooding out of this. Just north of it should be a little bit less, where we're seeing ranges right around 2 to 3 inches throughout Seattle. And right along the Washington coast, you could experience 5 to 8 inches of rain as well. So this extends to Washington as well. And throughout Nevada, you see 2 to 3 inches of rain, and this extends to Idaho as well. So overall, just a very heavy rain that's expected to mainly impact the immediate coast of California, as well as Washington State and Oregon, but it should also extend to Nevada and Idaho as well. So make sure to pay close attention, because this rain could fall at a very fast clip. As you see that 5 to 8 inches of rain falls very fast, and we even see some readings close to 10 inches. So that's certainly something you guys need to keep in mind throughout California for this week. Taking a look at the forecasted snowfall, this will primarily affect only the extreme high elevations of California, but there are some readings up to 66 inches, which is equivalent to 6 feet of snow in the extreme higher elevations of California, which is just obscene. That's extreme high amount of snow throughout the higher elevations of California. So it might be a good weekend for skiing for you guys, but make sure to take precaution, especially if you live in the higher elevations of California. This extends to the higher elevations of Washington State as well, and we're seeing snow all throughout the Rocky Mountain ranges as well. So make sure to keep that in mind and stay off the roads during heavy snow like this, because we could also see blizzard-like conditions in the higher elevations of California thanks to the very strong winds in that region. Now, taking a look at what the GFS model is saying, it's saying very similar things to the European, where we are seeing just very heavy rain throughout Northern California, and this extends even further southwards, where even Los Angeles and San Diego might get involved in some rain, which is quite rare for you guys in Southern California. But you see that the snow will continue in the higher elevations, and the low pressure system will move northward, which would mean that it won't dump as much rain, which is good news, but we're going to still see sort of a low cut off from this extratropical cyclone and move westward, and could bring our next severe weather to southeast. So we need to keep that in mind as well. Taking a look at what the GFS model is saying when it comes to the total amount of precipitation over the next 5 days. If we were to take a look at that, you're going to see that the GFS model is forecasting a very similar outcome to the European, where we're seeing areas of 5 to 8 inches for the most part throughout Northern California. So make sure to pay close attention, as a flash flood threat is likely for you guys. Taking a look at the current hazards, you see that a lot of California is under at least a flash flood watch for now, and we're even seeing flood watches and coastal flood warnings issued in some areas, where of course the winds will be high, and we're going to see the waves be very strong as a result of that. And we're seeing high wind warnings, like I said, throughout Nevada is involved, even as far east as Utah is involved, and we're seeing wind advisories throughout Oregon, Idaho, and this extends to Washington State as well. Now taking a look at the forecasted radar over the next 3 days, which will give a good idea of what to expect. So right now we're seeing, of course, that small trough moving through the west coast of California. Not going to bring much rain today, and it should weaken as it moves further eastward. But again, look at that big bomb cyclone. As early as Sunday morning 6 a.m. you guys should experience just very heavy rain throughout Northern California, and depending on how far south it moves, it could be up to maybe 12 inches, but it could be maybe lower if this moves a little bit less southward, maybe closer to the 5-inch range. But the current consensus is around 5 to 8 inches in Northern California, and you see this extends to very early on Monday as well, where it's impacting San Francisco, the Bay Area, and the rain should continue for you guys. So make sure to keep that in mind, and the rain should approach you guys in Los Angeles right around Monday night to Tuesday. So make sure to keep that in mind. Now, taking a look at my forecasted rainfall over the next several days, you see that I'm forecasting a large area of 5 to 8 inches throughout Northern California, 5 to 8 inches in the extreme northwestern portion of Washington, and then 3 to 5 inches throughout Oregon. This extends to some parts of Nevada as well, and 5 feet of snow is possible in the higher elevation of California. So make sure to keep that in mind. And then around the Los Angeles area, I'm expecting right around 1 to 2 inches. Not much, but it's still at least will help the drought a little bit. So and throughout Arizona, I'm expecting 1 to 2 as mainly light rain, but Idaho could get involved in 2 to 3, but the main area will of course be 5 to 8 inches, and I'm expecting even a small area of 8 to 12 inches, which would just be devastating, as flash flooding I'd say is likely. So make sure if you see a body of water, turn around, don't drown, and make sure to just stay away from any streams that are prone to flash flooding for the next 2 days. Now, moving on to the severe weather threat that could impact the Midwest, you see that we throughout day 2, which is Sunday, October 24th, there's an enhanced chance of severe weather, which includes cities like St. Louis, Springfield, Missouri, Columbia, Missouri, as well as Fort Smith, Arkansas, and Fayetteville, Arkansas, where you guys could experience an enhanced risk of severe weather. In terms of the wind probability, it's very high in the enhanced region, and hail as well. Tornadoes are less likely because there isn't enough wind shear to really induce a very strong tornado threat. So the primary threats will be large hail and damaging winds, but you can't rule out the possibility of a tornado, especially if this trough ends up moving a little bit further southward to bring that cold air and further southward to enhance that instability in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Now, taking a look at what the European model is forecasting when it comes to the severe weather threat, if we were to move forward with it, you see that there's going to be a little bit of a small trough that's very weak at this time, but it is bringing enough cold air as a result of the leeward island. Not the leeward islands. The lee side of the mountains. The winds from the lee side of the mountains induced by some troughs coming off the Pacific Northwest. It's bringing colder air further southward, and as it does so, it's going to interact with the warmer and more moisture-filled air throughout the Midwest, and it's thanks in part due to this ridge located in the eastern half of the United States, bringing a lot of that moisture from the Gulf of Mexico further northward, and it's going to interact with the cold air that's going to be behind this trough, and we could see a little bit of a severe weather threat as pressure will drop down to around 997 millibars, and we're going to see this storm sort of have an extra tropical cyclone type build. If we were to take a look at the shear in the upper levels of the atmosphere, which gives a good idea of how much unstable air there will be, you see that the wind shear isn't extremely strong, but it's strong enough to really show that there's quite a bit of lift in the atmosphere. So there could be strong chances of severe weather throughout the Midwest. Now, what could change this is depending on how far south this low pressure moves and how much warm air there is. So we need to pay close attention to the temperatures today throughout the Midwest. If they're a little bit warmer than average today, then we could expect a more enhanced severe weather risk. But if they're a little bit lower today, I'd expect a little bit less of a severe weather risk. So that's something we need to keep in mind. But I'd say large hail and damaging winds should be the primary threat throughout the Midwest for this week. So you guys need to pay close attention to that. But yeah, guys, I guess that's it for this video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. And I hope you guys have a good day.